"Don't move, ma'am. Put your hands up." That was the sharp bark from one of them just before the taser fired. The electric crack cut through the quiet like a knife. She didn't scream, didn't even make a sound. She just hit the ground. The coffee she was holding went flying, smashing on the pavement. Her purse bounced off the curb and she lay there, body limp, twitching just a little. Next, they turned to him. An older man in a worn brown jacket, standing with his hands raised, steady and unshaken. A younger officer stepped forward, voice tense, full of edge. "Step back, old man. You're up next." He didn't respond immediately. He just stared right at the team leader, the one with the radio clipped to his chest, and said 5 words that changed everything. "Call Admiral Wren right now." For a beat, no one moved. Guns stayed up, but the room shifted. Radios buzzed. These were trained men, and still they froze. Just 5 words, and suddenly the whole situation had flipped. In Rockridge, most folks knew Ellis Monroe as the man with the old, dusty blue truck. He lived a couple of blocks from the post office, in a brick house beaten by time, with wind chimes that barely stirred in the wind. His yard was always neat, his porch always clean, and if your mower quit on you, Ellis could get it running again before you could finish explaining the problem. At 74, his back didn't stand straight like it once did. But his eyes, they were steady, calm, like they'd already witnessed everything that mattered. He never bragged about his past. People assumed he was just another quiet mechanic, someone who'd survived the rowdy years of his youth. But every Friday, without fail, Ellis drove down to the county shelter and rebuilt wheelchairs for disabled veterans. Every other Tuesday, he spent 2 hours at the high school, not teaching, not preaching, just listening. He never skipped his morning walk, never left tools out overnight, and he always came home with a coffee for his wife, Nora. She was the pulse of his life. 46 years together had made them more like gravity than routine. Always there, steady, essential, invisible to everyone else. Nora knew the real stories, the ones that never made the news, the deployments that were off the record, the operations that didn't get medals, the nights he spent awake making calls that saved lives at the cost of his sleep. Those stories stayed locked between them, whispered once and never retold. No children, just a rhythm. He fixed things. She made life feel warm. That Tuesday morning was like any other. Ellis had just finished swapping a radiator for Mrs. Langston, a sweet lady living right across the street, when the day decided to change itself. Nora had taken off early that morning, heading to the gas station just down the block. It was senior discount day, and she liked to get there first before the coffee went lukewarm. The trees were just starting to turn, little splashes of red and gold here and there. The streets were quiet, almost empty, and Ellis was finishing wiping his hands on a red rag when he heard it, the unmistakable scream of tires on pavement. Not the usual teenage stunts. This was something different. Ellis looked up. A dark SUV shot past the stop sign, way too fast, heading toward where Nora had gone. He didn't panic. Calmly, he folded the rag, slipped it into his pocket, and started walking toward the corner. By mid-morning, the corner of Maple and Fifth was usually deserted. The pumps were old and scarred, the asphalt cracked, and the faded sign still read, "Pete's Gas and Market," even though Pete had been gone for 6 years. Ellis and Nora had been stopping here every week for over 10 years, like clockwork. When he got to the end of the block, he saw them. 3 black armored vehicles were positioned around the gas station like predators surrounding their prey. One officer was taping off the area with yellow caution tape. Another had climbed on top of a car, scanning the street with binoculars. The third, younger and tense, was barking orders into a radio. Ellis moved forward slowly, careful not to startle anyone, like approaching a nervous animal. He saw her then. Nora was at Pump 4, coffee cup in one hand, a receipt fluttering in the other. Her shoulders were lifted, not from fear, but confusion. She was speaking, trying to reason with them, quietly. She never yelled. The officers had formed a semicircle around her. One had his hand on a taser, ready. Another was shouting commands so fast they made no sense. The third kept repeating things into a body camera. From across the street, Ellis could hear a single line clearly. "Ma'am, drop the coffee now." Nora didn't comply. She lifted her free hand slowly, not threatening, just signaling, "I'm not a danger." The youngest officer jerked back slightly. Another shouted, "Non-compliant." Ellis picked up his pace. He stepped off the sidewalk, past the newsstand, moving toward the chaos. Then came the crack. The taser fired. He watched the coffee first, then the cup, then Nora as she collapsed silently to the ground. The team swiveled, weapons drawn at him. "Step back, sir. This is an active scene." I stopped in my tracks, arms lifted, palms open. Not shaking, not defensive, just deliberate. "She's my wife," I said, my voice steady. "She was only paying for gas." The lead officer barked over everyone else. "Lock it down. Secure the perimeter. That's the suspect's handler." "Handler?" I asked, blinking. Nobody answered. A younger officer shoved me hard in the chest, elbowing me back enough that I almost stumbled over the curb. Across the lot, Nora lay on her side, twitching faintly. The taser prongs were stuck near her collarbone, awkwardly angled. Her sleeve was ripped, glasses skidded beneath the pump. "Don't move, sir," another voice yelled. I didn't. I stayed looking at her. She wasn't crying or speaking, just blinking slowly, one hand pressed against the concrete as if holding herself in place. "Why taser?" I asked quietly. "She ignored orders," the officer said flatly. "For what?" I pressed. "Was she reaching for something?" "Her purse," he said. "That's enough," I snapped. The team leader stepped between us. "Hands on the vehicle now," he ordered. I placed my palms on the nearest squad car. The metal was hot under the morning sun. Behind me, zip ties bit into my wrists. "She has a heart condition," I said, low. The officer paused, brow furrowed. "Then she should have complied," he said. I closed my eyes. The world faded a little. Radios buzzed, boots shuffled. Someone coughed nervously. I opened my eyes and looked at the man in charge, the one with the pins on his collar standing like a statue, and I spoke 5 words. Not loud, not quiet, just firm. "Call Admiral Wren right now." The commander's brow knitted. "What?" I didn't flinch. "Call him, before you regret this." A younger officer snorted. "You think name-dropping changes anything? Check your coordinates first." I cut him off. "This is 1142 South Maple. You were sent to 1142 North Maple. 2 different blocks, 2 different zip codes." The youngest officer went pale. The team leader hesitated, hand hovering over his radio. I stayed calm, my voice steady. "Left pocket, inside lining. Don't touch it." He glanced at one of the older officers who moved toward me carefully, gloved fingers sliding into the jacket exactly where I'd indicated. He pulled out a small black metal badge, dulled by years of wear but unmistakable to anyone who knew. Not police, not retired Army. Deep Command. Tier 1. Classified. The officer held it up for a moment, eyes narrowing, then stepped back, showing it to the commander. Time seemed to slow. The shouting stopped. Weapons stayed raised, but the tension shifted. A breeze stirred napkins near the pump where Nora lay, one hand curled to her chest. I didn't look at anyone. I didn't move. Just stood there, zip-tied, sleeves smeared with grease, collar damp with sweat. Finally, the commander's voice cut through, quieter this time. "Who are you?" "Someone who built the system you're misusing, sir," I said, calm and even. A younger officer started to speak, but the older man stopped him. "That badge isn't just military, it's ghost clearance." Someone muttered behind me. "Ghost clearance? What the hell does that mean?" The commander ignored the question, turning back to his team. "Verify the address. Double-check dispatch. Immediately." Two officers moved aside, tapping radios and typing into tablets, urgency in every movement. I glanced at Nora. "She needs medical attention," I said. Still, no one moved. Finally, the commander barked, breaking the tension. "Get a medic here, now." Boots shuffled. Weapons dipped slightly. A man in tactical gloves knelt beside me and cut the zip ties. The plastic snapped. I didn't speak, didn't nod. I knelt by Nora, pressing 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse. Weak, but alive. She blinked, unfocused, breathing. Seconds later, the medic arrived, kit in hand, moving with the speed that should have been there 10 minutes earlier. Across the lot, a young officer was on the phone, voice shaking. "Yes, Admiral Wren. Yes, sir. It's him. It really is him." 20 minutes passed. The sirens faded. The shouting stopped. Still, no one left. The SWAT unit lingered behind their vehicles, radios holstered, hands off weapons, tense, quiet. Nobody said a word. A few of the neighbors had gathered quietly on their porches and sidewalks, phones out, recording everything in silence. I sat beside Nora on a bench tucked against the small wall of the market. She leaned into me, an ice pack pressed between her chest and coat. Her fingers were still wrapped around mine. The medic had checked her over. Heart, fine. No cardiac event, just bruises and a lot of shock. But her body still held tension, every muscle tight, not fully letting go. The door of the command vehicle opened. The SWAT leader stepped out, helmet tucked under one arm, posture rigid, every line in his body taut. Before he could even speak, another vehicle arrived. No sirens, no flashing lights, just authority. A charcoal gray SUV rolled silently behind the cruisers. The man who stepped out wore no uniform, yet the room froze. Everyone knew the rank he carried. Admiral Jonathan Wren. Silver hair, cut precise. Shoulders squared, his stride measured. Shoes civilian, but his presence commanding. He didn't glance at the SWAT team. He didn't even acknowledge the scene. He walked directly toward me. We locked eyes. A moment stretched between us. Then he lifted his hand, giving a sharp, full salute. I returned it slowly, deliberately, weight in my arms and shoulders, but the salute landed just the same. "You're not dead," Wren said quietly. "Not professionally," I replied. Wren glanced over his shoulder at the team who tried not to stare. "I got a call," he said, voice stronger now. "Someone panicking. Told me a civilian was tased at the wrong location, and then gave me the name of the man they zip-tied to the asphalt." He pivoted to face the SWAT commander fully. "You didn't detain a suspect," Wren said, voice cold. "You assaulted a former field director with command-level clearance." The commander opened his mouth to argue. Wren didn't let him. "You didn't check the coordinates. You didn't verify the threat. You ignored the very protocols this man helped write." One of the older officers, the one who had recognized the badge, whispered at last, "Ellis Monroe. That's him. He wrote the Tier 1 civilian response doctrine." After that, no one else needed to speak. The air held still, taut, as Wren stepped forward again. He ignored the commander, locking eyes with the young officer who had fired the taser. The kid looked like he'd aged 5 years in just the last hour. Sweat ran down the young officer's jaw as his eyes flicked nervously between me and the Admiral. "Your name?" Wren asked. "Officer Brett Collier, sir," the kid stammered. "Not anymore." Wren didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The vest, the weapon, the badge, one by one, Collier removed them with trembling hands and laid them carefully on the hood of a cruiser nearby. No ceremony, no words, just silence. When he was finished, he took a few shaky steps back and slumped onto the curb, like a student waiting for detention. I watched it all without saying a word. Wren turned back to me and slipped his hand inside his coat. He pulled out a sealed envelope. "This contains 2 things," he said. "A formal written apology from the agency, And a full reinstatement of your security clearance. We want you back." I didn't reach for it. My gaze went to Nora, still seated beneath the awning, a blanket draped over her shoulders. She was watching, quiet, but she said nothing. "My clearance belongs to her now," I said softly. Ren nodded, but his shoulders sagged a little. He placed the envelope gently on the bench beside me. "The offer stands," he said. "If the world ever needs you again, it always needs something, though it rarely learns." A low murmur ran through the SWAT unit behind us. Not laughter, not anger, just quiet acknowledgement. Every one of them had seen the shift, from noise to stillness, from control to humility. The commander spoke again, voice lower now. "Sir, we were told this was a high-risk narcotics operation. We thought—" "You thought?" I interrupted calmly. "You acted, and you hurt someone who only wanted a coffee." I stepped back toward Nora, helping her to her feet, steadying her as she leaned against me. As they walked toward their truck, a young officer bent to retrieve her glasses. Wordlessly, handed them to her. She nodded. Sometimes redemption came in silence. 3 weeks later, bruises gone, but she carried herself differently. Stood taller at the grocery store, didn't flinch at patrol cars. Accepted a free coffee, holding the manager's gaze until he looked away. I never opened Ren's envelope. Sat on a shelf between a jar of keys and an old oil can. Some things don't need answers. I kept fixing things. Library ramp, broken van. Carburetor at the high school shop. The town changed, too. Patrol cars slowed by my house, not watching but acknowledging. Officers waved first, rolled down windows just to nod. Once, a cruiser broke down 2 doors down. I arrived first, tools in hand. The rookie spoke. "Sir, you could have ended all their careers. Why didn't you?" I wiped my hands. Revenge doesn't rebuild engines, and it doesn't rebuild people either. Later, a reporter asked at the VFW, "Why just 5 words?" I met her gaze. Some words don't shout, they land.